The views and opinions expressed by the Loft Party Podcast panel participants and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the Good Times with Good People company, the host, or its sponsors.
It's not getting in.
Welcome everybody out there in podcast land. The Good Times with Good People company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Now that you've received your invitation, the best way to let us know that you're in attendance is to download the party or become official by joining us on Facebook, subscribing on YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, or Google Play Podcasts. Good. Thanks for joining us. Grab a cocktail, light a cigar, or whatever you like to smoke. Share us with your friends, and make yourself at home. I'm your host and moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. Hey out there in podcast land, I'm your host, Rio, and welcome to the Loft Party Podcast, episode 66. Oh, Lil Donald, haven't you learned anything about email? But before we get started, let's introduce today's panel. So, we've got our returning champion, Chris O'Connor. He's the owner of Liquid 9 Entertainment and Investments, as well as having interest in Rieger Whiskey and Office Works. And Big Dave Elliott. He is the owner of C&P Construction. And the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name.
Part two.
Before we get into important things, let's get into important things. So, what are we drinking? Our bartender Ben couldn't stay today, but he did leave the recipe for Chris O'Connor's favorite drink, the Pendergast. The original recipe for the Pendergast calls for bourbon, but J. Rieger's Kansas City whiskey makes a damn fine cocktail as well. And for you discriminating drinkers out there, I think you will like it. So, how do you make it? It's 1.5 ounces of Rieger whiskey, a 3/4 ounce of Doolin sweet vermouth, 1/2 ounce of Benedictine, and 3 to 4 dashes of Angostura bitters. You combine that in a mixing glass and stir over ice, strain into a chilled rocks glass without ice, and then garnish with lemon zest.
Absolutely. And that technically is the O'Connor Pendergast. The real one uses Buffalo Trace.
Well, actually, the funny thing is, they actually do on the J. Rieger website, they actually call that the Pendergast 2.0.
Yeah, we need a long discussion about it.
And then, of course, what are we smoking? So today we are smoking the ASHTON Estate Sun-Grown. It's a spicy, full-bodied staple on the top shelf of the Dominican cigar brands. Each year since 2006, ASHTON has featured and released their own ESG blend, made by my favorite cigar house, by the way, Fuente, in various shapes. Only a limited number of these sticks are produced, as these tobaccos are quite rare. And they are quite special. So, everybody out there in podcast land, if you are a smoker, please get yourself an ASHTON Estate Sun-Grown. You'll be happy with it, and make yourself a Pendergast. I think you'll enjoy. So, let's see. We've gone through what we're drinking. We've gone through what we're smoking, and let's get into today's RIPs. So, for me, I happened to see one that was close and personal to me, and that is Christopher Fresh Kid Ice Wong. He's a founding member of the 2 Live Crew. He passed away at 53. And it just said of medical issues. It didn't give any real reasonings. Did anybody else have any?
There were 2 others that happened in the last 2 days. So one was George Romero, the horror film director.
Yeah.
Which was a biggie.
Zombie.
Awesome schlock movies are great. And Martin Landau.
Yes.
I think that may have been today.
Was it
Yesterday. He was 89.
Okay.
He was 89.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are both interesting ones too.
So
I'm gonna tie one more in.
Oh, okay.
And this kind of, I want to go for the people on podcast land to listen to our last 2 episodes. That was important as we were dealing with the relationship between the community and the police. And we should have brought this up last week because it was a good counter to some of the things we were talking about. That the officer that got assassinated in New York City.
Oh yeah.
This stuff, that's scary stuff. And they're just doing their job and sitting in their vehicles, and random person comes up and randomly picks out an officer and puts a bullet in their head. That's, she was a mother, had her mother living with her. She had 2 or 3 kids, single mother, taking care of all these people. And they got to start realizing these aren't your enemies. These are just folks like you, and these are their jobs. And this is really scary when.
Well, deeper, and I definitely do not want to rehash the last 2 podcasts because we've already done them.
No, I don't, but I want to bring that
I would
up.
throw out 2 others if we're going to throw out that one. There's the Australian woman who was shot and killed for no reason at all. And then there was a kid in Dallas who was shot, once again, driving away from an officer. And they shot and killed him, and the Dallas Police Department fired him today. So
Don't drive away from an officer either. What they asked you to do.
They fired him, and he had no reason to pull his weapon of any kind. And so there's.
I agree they should shoot him, but they need to learn to do what the officer's asking them to do.
You can't just be a cop that pulls somebody over for no reason, looking for a crime, and then shoots you when you're leaving a scene. That doesn't work either. So and apparently the Dallas Police Department agrees, as they fired his ass on the spot, and there's going to be a huge lawsuit.
I would agree with that.
And with that, we'll be right back. Hey, you can search for the Loft Party Podcast on iTunes Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, and on our Good Times with Good People YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, tweet us on Twitter, and if you like the content we provide, donate to us on Patreon. www.patreon.com/Loft Party Podcast. You can find all of our links below. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. And we are back. And before we get too deep, let's play a quick party game. So, you can only choose one concert. Which one would you choose? Michael Jackson, Bob Marley, Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, Jimi Hendrix, Prince, Amy Winehouse, or Kurt Cobain. Of course, that would be Nirvana.
So we have to pick from this list.
And these are all
Past.
people who have passed. If you had the opportunity to miraculously go to one of these concerts, which one would you go to?
So we can pick like the one who's passed and then maybe one who's live down.
Well, which is
That's
actually my next question.
Okay. Go for it, Chris.
For me, it would definitely. I've seen Nirvana a couple of times already, so I would go with Prince.
Prince, yeah. Actually, for me, it would probably be Prince. That's the one person that I didn't get a chance to see live when he was alive, and I really would have loved to see Prince. Actually, right now we're being joined in the podcast studio by Adrian Lewis. He is in management in the manufacturing sector, and he is coming right in during the party game section. And so the question is, if you can go to one concert, which one would you choose? Michael, Bob Marley, Notorious Big, Pac, Hendrix, Prince, Amy Winehouse, or Kurt Cobain.
So make it easy, bro.
Yeah. Make it real easy for you. Make it easy.
While you think about that, I can give you my answer on it.
Yeah.
I'm an old school guy, and Bob Marley. Bob Marley concert had to be one of the most kick-ass, get stoned, live, laugh, love, party down concerts that you could ever go to. That had to be the most kick back, laid back, kicking ass concert you could possibly go to.
That definitely.
You listen to Bob Marley live.
That's definitely my
they were
number two
incredible.
on this list, and that's only because I've seen Biggie, and only because I'm probably as big a Bob Marley fan as I am a Michael Jackson fan, so that's kind of hard for me to flip the coin. Yeah,
I never knew that about you.
Yeah, no, I love Bob Marley.
love Bob Marley.
I've actually got a
I'll
very
listen
expensive.
to Marley about once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I actually got a really expensive box set of Bob Marley at home, and I think I don't know if I pulled it out in years, but I think I wore grooves in those CDs. I listened
Now
to
you
them.
have something to do.
Yeah.
Time to pull out the old Bob.
Yeah. What do you think? Anonymous female. Which of these concert sounds?
Mine would be Michael.
Michael. Yeah.
What about anonymous female number 2?
Probably Michael also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because I guess with my age, I haven't really listened to anyone else other than maybe a couple of Kurt Cobain and a
So you
few
would
of,
understand Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, you listen to Nirvana
Well, he died
a little
before
bit.
she was born.
Yeah,
died in
I mean, I went through a phase of being
Born in '99.
of wanting to watch all of his documentaries and stuff like that, but probably Michael.
Do you
just
admire
because-
Amy Winehouse? I mean, she was an outstanding artist. I mean, you
Yeah.
talk about totally screwed up chick, but still, she
Definitely was.
totally. I
I
mean,
think
her
it's
songs
Michael.
were wonderful.
I think I only know a couple of them.
I think it's Michael for me because I know so much of his.
Good catalog,
And he's
yeah.
a phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
Can you moonwalk?
no. Nor do I even want to try.
What do you think, Adrian?
I'd have to say Bob Marley won, and I have to go with a number 2 with Jimi Hendrix. Simply just I'm so familiar with the rest of the artists.
Yeah.
And videos, award shows, all that good stuff. Of course, Kurt Cobain died when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get a chance to appreciate as much as Bob Marley as I do now. And with Jimmy, I think he died well before I knew he
Yeah,
existed.
and so young too.
Yeah.
He died really
Part
young.
of the 26
Those
Club.
drugs.
Yeah, part of that weird 26 club.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, so these were all artists that have passed away. Now, if there's one artist that's alive, who would you want to go see?
Well, for me, it's always going to be R.E.M. Always. Just high school.
Augusta,
favorite.
Georgia.
Grew up with them. They're a huge influence on my life when I was a kid. So any chance I had to see them, and I've seen them 100 times.
Oh, okay.
But any chance I could ever get to see them again,
Okay.
I would definitely do that.
All right. Adrian?
Okay. Well, my father played old school music all day, all night. So I got like Frankie Beverly and Maze completely jammed in my in my soul.
He
Now,
played the old school crooner
All
Now,
the
now,
time.
the
now,
lady,
you know, now
the
this is
lady
funny.
stuff. He played the lady stuff
Yeah,
all day
man.
long.
So,
this is funny because I love Frank Beverly Mays.
Right.
But I've never wanted to see him. But I think it was because every year, like clockwork, they played Chicago.
okay.
Every year. So like my parents went several times. In fact,
So you associate it with like old people?
No, because once again, I do love Frank Beverly Mays. Everybody that I've ever known who's gone to a show has been older and they've seen their show so many times, they've said, man, they're doing the same exact show. So I've never felt like, well, I want to see it, only because I've known so many people who've seen them that never popped in my head. But that's a good one.
I would think Adrian unassociated him with old people.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm telling you, man.
It's just a different appreciation, man.
You gotta pull out your joy and pain and your back and style again from time to time.
Well, this isn't my show that I would go to, but to get with him, my black girlfriend, back in the late 70s, early 80s, was kind of unusual back in the day down in Hollands. and she took me to a Teddy Pendergast show. And you want to talk about the ladies going stupid. I mean, just absolutely berserk over this man.
Was this walking Teddy? Was this?
Yeah, this walking Teddy or wheelchair Teddy?
Wheelchair Teddy.
No, it's walking.
Walking Teddy.
Walking Teddy was
This is
the prime.
1979, probably 1979.
Yeah, that was the prime.
So this
Black
is
Tom Jones.
He was blind. He was like Tom Jones. He was the black Tom Jones in that. You're right.
Yeah, that was turn off the lights. Turn them off.
It was like, holy cow, man. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. Of course, I'd never been to a big R&B concert like that. It blew me away. But my band, to see that's live, I've always been an Allman Brothers fan, but geez, Greg is dead, Butch Trucks is dead, and they're all dying, so I can't really use them anymore. I would have to say U2. I think U2 is constant endurance and constant evolution and,
You got your shot in
constant revolution of what they are. Yeah, we do. I think Michelle and I are going to be out in New Hampshire for my father's, I got to do my father-in-law's memorial service yet.
They're another band I haven't missed a concert since Joshua Tree. And I don't even particularly, they're not my favorite band, they just put on an amazing concert.
Amazing
Who's that?
show, yeah. U2.
Yep.
What about you?
I think that's harder for me. Like you want to go to a show that's really hard to go to, like, you know, Jay and Kanye, but would I really care? No. But then,
I would care.
It would be awesome, but like, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, it's, I don't know. That's a hard one for me because I've heard so many, you know, like, it's just going to sound so horrible, but like Katy Perry and Pink, they all put on phenomenal shows, you know, and
Like
I
a
probably know
spectacle
most
show.
of their, of their catalog, but you know, I don't know. That's so much more difficult one for me.
Yeah.
It probably would be like Jay and Kanye though,
Yeah.
and Jay and Kanye and Beyonce concert.
Right. Like the Holy Trinity. What do we got? Yeah.
That would probably be.
They gotta start getting along again first.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah. That's,
Next week it'll be something different.
yeah, well, I say, I know you weren't going to talk, but since you've been asked to talk more than
People
once.
too does need to have the input on this.
I think I have such a wide music variety.
That's why it's
I
hard
could,
for me.
I could go to a Rascals Flatts concert, or I could go to a Beyonce concert, or I could go to a Biggie concert. Like whatever concert I would want to go to, I would just enjoy pretty much anything.
I mean,
Like,
coming out of that household, how could you not?
like I
You
go
guys listen to
to
everything.
Pussy for concerts
bit.
with my dad, or I'll go to a Drake concert with Mario. So it's just like those are two very different, groups right there. So
Yeah.
I mean.
And we have gone to a couple of Drake concerts. Yeah.
I mean, I will always
Yes,
love to go
we have.
to my husband's concert. I will always be down for my man Aubrey. So
That's Drake for anybody out there in podcast land. But I say she does claim him personally.
just switch the H and the I, and I'm already.
Isn't he still playing
Yeah.
at Canadian malls? Isn't that his thing?
But I say, please don't get swung on. You know what? I'm probably.
We've only missed one concert.
He's
of him
almost
coming
seen me.
here, and
Okay,
the
he's
only-
almost talked to me. I was
the-
close.
Yeah, the only reason was by the time we knew he was coming, the tickets were already sold
Because
out.
Mario slipped up.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
Somebody gotta take the blame.
Here we go.
It's
Somebody gotta take the
definitely
blame.
him on that
But,
one.
well, it was lucky because the second time we went was because he actually came back 2 times because we missed the first time he came, and Mario was like,
TKC.
"Psych, here we go."
Yeah.
But you know, all you gotta do is go down to the plaza. They always stay at the, what was it, the Intercontinental down there.
Yeah, if they're in town.
Don't tell her that.
Just-
Next thing you know, there's going to be a gaggle of girls down there waiting in the lobby.
I'm sure there already has
I was
been
about to
before.
say, it probably
so.
is already. Yeah.
I'm sure they have some tunnel exit so they don't, you have to walk through
They
the
come
lobby.
through the back garage.
What about you, Rio?
Actually, it's probably the same. You know what? Actually, I'm kind of the same as Rihanna. I've got such a wide swath of acts that I like. Probably just purely for difficulty of the get, like the Jay and Kanye
Yeah.
and Beyonce and stuff like that. But I will say, I was gifted for Father's Day a pair of tickets to to the Kendrick Lamar concert, which I'm very excited about. And so I'm going to go see that in August. So I'm excited about that.
That's actual rap music.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to a rap concert, and I'm going to be really happy about it. And with that, we'll be right back. Hey out there in podcast land, we would not be doing our duty if we didn't acknowledge the sponsors of the Loft Party Podcast, the Majestic Restaurant and Jazz Club, and the Majestic's Pendergast Club. The Majestic carries on Kansas City's tradition of great food and jazz. Let them show you why they are the classic Kansas City steakhouse experience. 931 Broadway, just 3 blocks from the Kansas City Convention Center. J. Rieger & Company, a Kansas City distillery. Whether whiskey, gin, or vodka, neat or on the rocks, J. Rieger, Kansas City, sipping good since 1887. C&P Construction, Kansas City's premier wood framers, 50 years of quality framing and craftsmanship. Just email david.cnpservice@gmail.com and start building something new today. And our friend and frequent guest, Lane Boland. Thank you all for all that you do. Time to rejoin the conversation. And we are back. And okay, here we go. Party politics.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, Donald Trump Jr. and the email heard around the world. I don't really care who starts the hilarious. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's start with Mr. O'Connor, because before I even, okay, so for Inside Baseball, for anybody out there in podcast land, I send a text out saying, on our next recording, this is what we're going to be talking about. So before I could even get the text out, Chris sent me a text saying, so we talk about Donald and Joe. We talk about Donald Trump.
He just had email.
Right. And right. He said we talk about email, right? And I was like, email? He was like, yeah, Donald Trump Jr. I said, oh, absolutely, we're talking about that. And so I guess we'll start.
The most famous email in the world right now.
Yeah.
What a complete moron just to start. And here's what I don't get. Man, I find this to be so disingenuous, and this is why I think that this potentially will be the downfall of the Trump presidency. Is I don't care if the email was sent before the Russian stuff started. The Russian stuff's been going on for about a year. They've been asking about it. If nothing happened, you would have released it. Yeah, and I don't know why they don't ever get ahead of a story. Like, just put it out there. If nothing happened, it would have been super easy to put it out there at any time. It's not like you forgot about meeting with a Russian government attorney. You don't forget it.
I would think you would not forget that.
At least you would have checked your day planner and made sure that, oh yeah, I guess it didn't. You would have been looking. So it's just so dumb. I don't understand why they don't get in front of this.
Yeah, like everybody has been saying from the beginning, you know, I had no contact with Russians, I didn't meet with any Russians, and every single person has had contact and or met with a Russian.
I mean,
this is getting ridiculous at this point.
All 3 in the meeting did not disclose it.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Exactly.
You guys are just idiots. It's just so stupid.
Did you guys hear the news today about their lawyer?
Yeah.
About not, well, if it was, if the Secret Service thought it was so nefarious, why didn't they stop it? And the Secret Service came back and said, we weren't watching him.
Right.
It wasn't our job to at the time.
Yeah, he was a candidate, not...
Well, this happened in
He wasn't a
June.
candidate.
This happened in June of 2016.
Yeah,
You
he was a
realize
candidate, he wasn't...
He didn't have a lot of staff at that time either.
No, but they were watching Trump because he was the candidate. They weren't watching his family or friends.
Why would they be?
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess that's my point. The lawyer's like, well, it's the Secret Service fault. No, it's really not.
No, when you know they've been talking about this for a year and you do not disclose it on your White House clearance form, which is a crime, it's a federal crime, to not disclose that.
Well, and they were originally more concerned that, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now.
There's Jared Kushner.
Yes, that he's the only one that's actually on staff in the White House.
Right. So Trump Jr. is technically not on staff, but he does have clearance there.
He does.
So in order to get clearance, you have to disclose it on a legal document that provides you the status to be able to go into the White House, and he did not. And none of them did. Kushner had to go back and revise his later. And it's like,
well, he revised his later, but I don't even think he included that at that time.
I don't know if he did or
He didn't,
but I know
because they
that
were talking about that he had that he went back and revised it to disclose other things, and still didn't disclose this one.
Yeah, the whole thing's just bizarre. I mean, it's just like you don't forget a meeting when that's all people have been talking about for a year. And then I love that Trump was tweeting, "I'm so proud of my son for being so transparent."
I know.
No, the New York Times was about to put the email.
Why? How did they get the info? Somebody somehow got on his computer, took a picture of the screen of the email, and leaked it out.
I don't care.
That's exactly what happened.
That doesn't bother me.
But isn't that somewhat problematic?
No, not at all.
No,
you know, they have so many. They've had so many.
That's really not fair, though. I mean, we're mad that WikiLeaks steals emails and sends them out, but you're not. I mean, you have to be fair. Like, it's not okay to go in and do something, like that.
It is when you think it's illegal.
That's
a fine line. It's okay for one side, but not okay for the other. That's a very fine line.
I mean, to me, there's a huge difference between somebody close to him saying, you know what, this was not cool, and giving that information to a legitimate journalistic source versus dumping every document under the sun to WikiLeaks. I mean, to me, that really is.
I guess my question is, though, how did they know to go in and look for it?
Well, that's the reason why I said it.
Maybe they just got on it and looked, and possibly they even got paid.
Well, shame on him for not having his computer.
Well, I'm not saying that it was the worst cover-up in the history of mankind.
I'm about to say, I see you wanting.
I'm mulling over this. It's I was sold when Flynn asked for immunity. I was there. Like, I was done there. The email part of it is just pretty much more compounding information of just what we already know. There's been something going on with Russia for quite some time. They're financing golf courses and they have financial interest in what you're doing business-wise, then...
Oh, but Trump is at an arm's length from the business
No.
That's the dumbest thing in the world.
There's been so much with Ivanka and her husband being involved. I've never seen people that close to you be involved in your administration. I think that's just a conflict of interest in itself.
Yeah, not. Okay, so when you go back to like the Kennedys, his brother, of course, had a job in the government.
The Attorney General.
But when you're talking about your top advisor who's in the office next door to you, is very different than having a job, maybe even a high job in government, but they're not in the building with you every day. And like that, it just, this whole thing. You know how they always use the phrase, that seems fishy. Like, have you ever actually smelled when fish is fishy? Like this smells like that. This smells like a fish market that has got 3-day-old fish.
A Mexican fish market on a really bad day.
Yeah, it's just like it's hot outside.
Yeah, this is the beach vendor at 5 p.m.
Give me a moment, because I'm more of a Trump guy and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they have been going after this now. They've had 9 or 10 times they've been able to try to nail them on something. They can't find something. They can't find something. They can't find something. They're digging and digging and digging and digging as hard as they can. And now they think they got the golden goose.
Were they saying they couldn't find?
Hang on. Let me finish. Now they got the golden goose. So they think that they can impeach Trump. That's been the whole thing. but had that talk already. It takes 3/4 of Congress. They're not going to impeach him.
No.
All this is just trying to keep everything away from any agenda he's trying to do. This is total distraction. They're going to continue it until the 2018 elections. They're going to continue it on beyond that. They're constantly on this. Just like the Republicans were constantly on Hillary.
Yeah.
All right, no different. And she was just as stupid as he was. I mean, she did a lot of stupid shit. I mean, we can't deny that. I mean, she sold the uranium to the Russian government and took money, and Bill went and did a $500,000 speaking thing. I mean, they're just as guilty in any way as anybody else. It's just that they won't get prosecuted because of the way the mainstream media is.
Well, she actually was.
You got to realize, here's an interesting fact. Right now, Trump has only had 46 of his nominees appointed. At this point, Bush and Obama both had over 120. Yeah. So this is, you got obstructionist people that don't want to get him moving on things. You look at what he's done on foreign policy, he's really done a pretty good job. The ISIS problem is in big trouble right now. They're handling North Korea fairly well. That's a difficult situation to handle. They've also gone into Poland and NATO, and he's stirred it up a little, but he has been very presidential in a lot of the things he's done there. Trump is not a total fool. And maybe he's a puppet, and maybe he just knows how to read off the teleprompter good, but we can't say that Obama was a pretty good teleprompter reader too. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is just keep apples to apples here and realize what this really is. You know, this isn't enough here to convict anything. They will pound it all they can, and they will try to destroy him in any way they can. There is an element out there that doesn't want Trump. They wanted to impeach from the get-go.
No, I agree with that.
And this element is constantly going to be after him until they either drive him out of office. This is not good for America. This is not good for our politics, because if it switches over the other way and we have a Democratic presidential candidate that gets elected, they're going to look for the dirt every which way. There's nobody that's free of sin in politics.
Everybody's always looking for dirt, but it is not a defense to say, well, just because the other person did guilty things, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't go after him. You know, they're all bad, so let's just not investigate this. They have a reason for investigating. They don't appoint special prosecutors and all that kind of stuff just for no reason. And the things that keep coming out and the way that they're coming out, in particular, are what makes me think something is really off base here. It's absolutely bizarre that Trump Jr. would not have put this email out way ahead of time. They'd have saved themselves all this trouble.
I don't disagree with you there, but just think about this. They have what they call opposition research, right? So it's June of 2016. Trump doesn't have a huge staff. Generally, if opposition, somebody came in with this, and somebody down about the 10th level is going to go meet with this person.
It wasn't the 10th.
Wait a minute, no.
It was the campaign manager. It was Trump Jr.
I'm not a big politician,
but they didn't have a whole lot of people below those people.
If me, I'm not the brightest guy in the room.
Yes, you are.
But
don't give me that shit.
But I'm gonna say if I was planning on running, and my sister, or my brother, or my uncle, or my cousin plans on having a meeting on my behalf, that to me, in its just plain sight, is just a conflict of interest.
I don't think that Trump thinks that way. I think that he kind of has trust in him. I don't know that he even necessarily knew about it at the time.
It's a totally different ballgame when you're talking about.
You know what?
I'm with you. Yes, I think you are the smartest person there.
He delegates things out.
I see your logic, but I don't agree. But I do see your logic. I think he's in business used to delegating these things out and delegating these things out to the people that are sitting right next to him.
He trusts them.
But the problem is, and the very reason why, to answer the overlooming question, why don't you run the government like a business? Because you can do things in business that you cannot do when you're talking about representing this many people over this amount of real estate. You can't have, like you say, your son going to meet with Russian officials when you're trying to run for president, because even if
it's all innocent, it's above board, nothing happened. Just the appearance of impropriety really is enough to derail most candidates.
But don't you think Hillary had opposition research going on all over the place?
Oh, I'm sure. But you know what? But you're right. But it would have been
a professional politician that knows how to do it.
No, but it would have been. But it would have been a professional opposition researcher that is not directly connected.
It wasn't Chelsea.
Yeah. Exactly.
He didn't have
it's
anything
not
like
Chelsea.
that, nor did he even know how.
I find that hard to believe though, Dave, because
I don't.
why do you think that he would only have his son and daughter and son-in-law in the business that he has? You're going to tell me that he doesn't have people that aren't related to him able to go out and do research?
Somewhat, but I think that he trusts them more than others.
So he picked the 3 highest people who were involved in his campaign.
They know nothing
and
about
sent them to meet with a Russian
Say it was
government
smart.
attorney. And beyond that, meeting with the Russians isn't even my biggest problem. My biggest problem is that this has been a story for over a year, and they just never disclosed it. And you would not forget that meeting. You just would not forget it.
Yeah. Like I said, even if you
it was the worst cover up ever.
Like I said, even if you got in a room
that.
and she was just talking nonsense, even if, like I say, I'm willing to say, even if you took the meeting, excuse me, you got in the room, and she was just talking nonsense, and you're like, okay, this is crazy.
So nothing but Hillary.
But the fact that you're sending those 3 people that are that close to you to have that meeting is the problem. It's whether or not anything came out of the meeting kind of is immaterial. But you have to be smarter than that.
But beyond that,
to run the country, don't you?
None of them reported it. If nothing came of it, if she was an idiot, then report it and go, yeah, we had this meeting. You know, here's what happened. Nothing.
How do you prove you're a U.S. citizen? You show your birth certificate, right?
Yeah.
How do you prove that you're pretty much clean from all this Russian collusion? You step up, you have a press conference, and you just say there's nothing going on. You don't continue to hide it through tweets and you know, try to
misdirect.
And trying to throw stuff towards. She's lost the race. She's out of it. She plays no part. I mean, I'm sure there's something behind the scenes she can probably do that we don't know about. But overall, if there's nothing to hide, then be transparent at this point.
And you could not forget anything involving the Russians at this point. If you were in the Trump administration, you better get that shit out now. Put it out there, especially.
I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying that they didn't make a mistake, but I'm still going to say, like everything else they brought up, is it really criminal? Is it an impeachable offense? I don't see it. I think they are trying to drive his son out of the picture and out of the office, and some other people, they want him gone.
It leads me to believe that there is something that is impeachable in there. Otherwise, you would already. All 3 of the top people in the campaign went to the meeting. None of them put it out there.
I think they thought there was something there.
It doesn't matter. The point would be, especially since it's been such a huge story, if there was nothing there, then you would put it out right away. Since we've been talking about it for a year, I go, yeah, I'll tell you what. One time this crazy chick hit me up and said I got a whole bunch of dirt, turned out to be nothing. Here's the email. Big deal.
I actually bared through 2 hours of CNN just to see if they would run another story. And in 2 hours, CNN did not run another story. They brought in person after person after person after person to comment on the same dang thing. All I ended up with was a headache trying to watch the damn thing.
I don't think that this is necessarily a criminal offense. What I do think is it leads me to believe that there were criminal offenses that happened because of the way that they are handling it. It makes you think that something happened, and I also think the fact that we're not going to know what the special prosecutor knows. They're not going to put all that out.
Well,
and they have a reason for investigating. And there have been a lot of people very close in the DOJ who have said, no, there's more here than meets the eye.
Well, and they won't let them. They keep trying to stop the process. You know, they've already. They're not meeting deadlines, not turning over information, and
now he's thinking about firing them.
And everybody has told him how bad of an idea that is.
That would just be idiotic.
I think he learned very well from Hillary, though, didn't he?
What's that?
I think he learned very
What did-
well
how-
from
how
Hillary.
did he
Hillary
learn it?
used to try to stop the process all the time too.
Well, Bill didn't fire Ken Starr when there was a special prosecutor.
I suppose he could have, but he didn't. He went through the impeachment process, and he just didn't get thrown out of office.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about Bill, I'm talking about Hillary.
Yeah.
Well, again, she didn't win the election, so why are we
No,
still
but-
talking
but-
about her?
Because it's the same damn thing.
Okay, she didn't win
really-
the election though. She's not in office.
But it's the
She
same
has no
damn
influence at
thing.
this point.
Right.
There's no influence
All right.
on the entire country when she hasn't won the election. She's not the president.
They could be
Yeah, I do
doing
have a
the same
couple.
thing to her.
I got a couple things
They
that I want
could
to.
be, but she's not president.
I got a couple things I want to read here. These were some of the defenses. I like to just say excuses that people threw out for Donald Trump Jr. and his behavior with this.
Ever-changing defenses?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the number one reason, not in any particular order, but number one, that Donald Trump Jr. he's young.
Yeah.
So is this like Jon Stewart on the Comedy Channel there where you do the top 10?
This is a top 10, but it ain't funny. I'll give you that. So one.
So we're gonna listen to him
Trump
while
Jr.
you talk.
Yes. So he's young. That was the first one.
That's fine.
Two, the Secret Service didn't stop it, which is just stupid. Loretta Lynch let the Russian lawyer into the U.S. What? It didn't yield any useful information. It's not collusion unless it's extensive or planned, which is wrong.
Well, it's not collusion. You don't violate campaign finance rules unless you get something of value, is the legal argument about it. So what they would say is the biggest thing they were trying to nail him on would have been violating campaign finance laws. Mm-hmm. And if the argument is nothing of value came out of it, then you don't technically violate the law. So that would be the legal defense.
But I say I won't even read through all the rest of them except for this next one, which was the and I cannot pronounce her last name.
It's a tricky one.
Was not a government lawyer. She was a lobbyist. I was like, the excuses kept getting more pathetic as I was reading them. I was just like, really, is this okay? So
she was admitted into the country to lobby on that first visa.
Except for the fact that her husband is in the Russian government and she denied having any relation to the Russian government.
I'm
at
just
all.
saying that's why their
She
excuse was.
lied.
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, now they're all lying.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just silly.
yeah, and I guess so. Okay. So here's my question. So the biggest thing that I've kind of heard in opposition to the idiocy is there's no there there, and if there's no there, stop talking about impeachment. My problem is, if there's no there, which I don't believe, I do believe, like you say, I do believe that there will be nefarious things that will become uncovered. I really do believe that. But if nothing else, the level of stupid that we're seeing, I've just never seen, except for maybe Watergate, I've just never seen this level of stupid. And why is the American public tolerating it at all? You know, I don't understand why more people aren't up in arms about. Okay, I was looking at a thing that was talking about his Trump's approval rating, and it was like at 24% or something.
It's at 36%.
That was a Washington.
Well, it was 24% about certain questions.
That's a Washington Post New
It
York
was,
Times
but it was
survey.
But still, I think that even if you do a cumulative of his approval polls, they don't go above 40%. I mean, even among his own party. If nobody likes the guy, he's continually doing stupid things, and everybody around him is getting caught doing stupid, borderline illegal things. Why is the American public not more up in arms about this?
I got the answer to that.
Go for it.
They're worn out. They are literally worn out because this has been pounded on since the day he got in office. And it's been story after story after story after story. And they're starting to tune out, and their statistics to prove this. Yeah. They're tuning out the media, they're tuning out the papers, they're tired of hearing about it, and they've tuned it out. They don't see that as important. They see, especially in the middle America, the coast are a different animal. But the majority of the country is tired of hearing about it. They want to see progress in government. They want to see things happening. They want to see our Congress do things. They want to see our president do things. And they kind of feel like all this just keeps going up the works. And surveys show that on a high percentage. They may not like him, but they're tired of this. They're tired of this constant thing coming at them. And they're just worn out by it. They've tuned it out. We have short memories. And you beat us up for a while, and we just tuned it out.
And that, to me, is the problem with the American electorate. If that's the case,
and I really think it is.
If that's the case, we are a punk ass electorate because. Go ahead. I see it formulating.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with what he's saying in regards to being worn out. I think they're worn out about the Russia stuff. I think we're just worn out with politics, period, at this point. But also, I think we honestly have just gotten to a point, personally, I just think we just don't trust the government overall anymore, period. I think there's just been a lack of trust now. So
we lack trust in them.
We lack trust in government.
Yeah, we're sick of them.
Yeah,
we're tired of the BS.
I think he was elected on the premise that he would do a better job. He's not a politician, so maybe we can trust a businessman more than we can trust a politician. And now it's still politics as usual now, so where do you turn? Yeah, so it's still he's still a puppeteer, he's still being a puppet. It's still politics as usual. It's still, we don't really truly know what's going on. Do we have healthcare? Do we not have healthcare? Do we
have any tax reform coming? What's happening?
Is the middle class going to get saved, or are they going to become poor? Is it just going to be rich or poor? What's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Like, people are just completely confused.
I also think there hasn't been a Watergate type bombshell yet. I mean, this is as close as we've gotten. This is the biggest news yet.
Yeah.
But it's
not
still,
Watergate.
It's still a little muddled.
Yeah.
If they come out, if you were to fire the special prosecutor and the head of the FBI again, who they just got a new one, and do all that kind of stuff, then I think you'd see people really up in arms. And you got to remember, in Watergate they had tapes.
Yeah.
Nixon on the record.
Yeah.
All
Saying
illegal things.
Yeah, on tape saying stupid stuff.
I mean, he was a true moron. To know that there's a taping system going on and you're having conversations on illegal stuff, and no, that's just dumb.
Yeah.
That's brave.
Dumb and brave, right.
But,
Well, I know that although people are tired of everybody throwing shots at him for the whole Russia thing, most of the reason that his followers or his people who voted for him like him so much is because he's quote unquote more of a real type president. He doesn't just wait for approval for all of his tweets. He takes shot at the media, lets them know that they're fake news, all that stuff. He doesn't just sit back and wait for, he doesn't just take everything.
Proper channels.
Yeah. He
He's a little bit of a bomb thrower.
Yes, most of his tweets he probably shouldn't tweet, and most things he probably shouldn't say, but I think that's why people like him so much, is he's more relatable.
I think he's a classic distractor. And anytime bad news comes out, he throws out something against
There's
the
always
media.
something else.
And
It's
it's
always
just
the
nonsense.
media, no matter what.
I think he likes the attention too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately,
he's always done that.
Ultimately,
This is
he is a classic egomaniac.
Yeah.
He's,
absolutely.
I mean, textbook egomaniac.
Absolutely.
He loves the attention. He loves every time somebody says his name. And if somebody says his name in a good way, he's all praises and smiles. If somebody says his name in a bad way, you know, like he always says he's a counterpuncher. To me, that's just a petulant child, because that's how kids react. You know, you hit me, I hit you back. You know, and honestly, I think what most Americans really want, honestly, is an adult in the room. Like, I think they're, and I will say, not just Trump. I think it goes over years. I think they're tired of the childish behavior, period. Like, you're...
Two parties?
Yeah, from both parties. Yeah, I think these are grown-ups that are supposed to be representing millions and millions of people, but they're sandbox fighting, and instead of governing.
Well,
and I think people are tired of that.
well, you can go back to the Obama administration when you had Pelosi and Reid, and then you had McConnell and Boehner, and it was just all the time they stand up at the podium and beat down the other side or this or that, and you do get disjointed after a while. They're coming up constantly saying stuff that you know is just off the chart stupid, or not relevant to how we're living our lives out here, or we can't help but get the feeling they're totally disconnected from us and what we're trying to achieve on our daily basis.
Yeah.
And we really we have a few. I look at Senator Moran, who's out there always having meetings and everything else. I've been to a couple of his town halls. I mean, that dude's out there really trying. Then you got Pat Roberts, who never shows up in Kansas. You know, and so, you know, you look at Pat Roberts and say, that guy's a jackass. You look at Moran and say, you know, that guy's actually out here talking to folks. He's trying to connect. So there's your difference between politicians right there.
I think it's always very hard when somebody says, well, with the stuff that we're trying to get done. Well, they're trying to do different things. I mean, very different things. That's why nothing is done.
Yeah.
You know, you can't alienate your base, or you won't win re-election. That's just
Well,
what
that's
happens.
it. That's it.
And
It's
beyond
all
that-
about how can I get reelected.
And honestly, this is a Republican problem because you have a divided Republican Party. You have half of them who look at the healthcare bill and go, it doesn't go far enough. Because I told my crazy ass Tea Party people that, you know, I would get rid of all government healthcare. And then you have a whole bunch of others from Democratic states going, no, we can't have 21 million people lose their health insurance. This
The
doesn't work.
Democrats get together and they fight. The Republicans get elected and they don't necessarily put up a fight. They just get elected.
Well, there's two Republican parties, I guess is my
Well,
point.
there's two or
There's a
three.
moderate Republican Party, yeah.
I would say there's almost three of them.
And they never get along. You know, they can't stop infighting long
The
enough.
Democrats
to
are
do
more
anything
united
about
than
it.
the Republicans. I think that would be the best way to say it.
Although they do have to say, I mean, they have said recently that a lot of people don't know what the Democrats stand for anymore.
Well, they have a
So-
problem too.
They
Yeah.
have a failure there.
Yeah. Like
And that's
they
why-
may all agree, but nobody knows what they're agreeing on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do stand together.
Both parties have an inherent contradiction in their own philosophies. Where Democrats say, give me all your money, that would be awesome, but you can do anything you want socially, that's kick ass. You know, when the Republicans go, no, you can keep your money, but I'm going to tell you what you can do in your bedroom. You know, get the hell out of here.
You know,
It sucks.
You know, I think with that, I think you have said a mouthful, and we'll definitely have to address our party system on
Another podcast.
an episode.
That was a good
to
discussion.
come up, but yeah. But
It was.
I think that may be the best place to put a pin in this discussion. And with that, we'll be right back. Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And
Where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party.
Okay, and we are back. And before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar honey iced tea. And that, for those that don't know, are things that I, or a member of the group, found that are really cool, aka this shit. And today's sugar honey iced tea is Game of Thrones. I personally was super happy Game of Thrones came back. I am definitely...
What movie were we watching? It's a movie we both like. And you were like, oh, wait, Game of Thrones is coming on.
Oh, yeah, what were we watching? Because it really...
Fast and Furious.
It was like the first Fast and Furious. And we were watching it, and it was getting to the good part. And I was like, oh, it's 8 o'clock. Game of Thrones is on. Click, click, click. Like, yeah, no care whatsoever about that movie anymore. So I don't know how many people at the table, other than probably myself and the anonymous female, that actually watch Game of Thrones regularly.
I haven't even watched it once. It's on Netflix.
It's on HBO.
It's on HBO? Okay, I gotta check it. I thought it was on Netflix.
Yeah, I think Amazon Prime has the past seasons because they have a deal with HBO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You definitely have to start
You
season
start-
1, episode 1
There's
because
600
you miss
characters.
a lot.
I never watched an episode. Ever.
You never seen it?
It's well, you have to be okay with a lot of things that most people aren't okay with.
I'm
So-
okay.
I'm okay.
with
You gotta be
the
okay with a little. You gotta be okay with a little. You gotta be okay with it. Well, first
I mean,
you kind of gotta like that kind of fantasy sci-fi genre.
Well, it's really medieval. I mean,
It really is
medieval.
kind of medieval. It's kind of a medieval
That's
fantasy.
medieval wasn't pretty now.
Yeah, no.
And
no.
this is
And
not
This is not
by
pretty.
any
It's not
means.
pretty at all.
That blonde's not bad.
So let's see.
She
Here
has
you
dark
go.
hair.
Yeah, Chris probably liked it, but that's different.
About to say, yeah. So, what have we learned so far about Game of Thrones? Chris likes Khaleesi. Anybody out there in podcast land who is going to be listening to this and has not seen episode 1 of Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, spoiler alert. You can stop this now if you want to. Otherwise, we're probably going to say things that's going to spoil episode 1 of this season for you. But it opens the way I want a Game of Thrones episode to open.
Did you watch it?
With an entire room of people being murdered. It was amazing.
Oh yes, it was lovely. Because we actually knew who was doing it.
Yeah. So, very quickly, for anybody out there who's not watched Game of Thrones, there are several houses or families that all feel that they have some legitimate claim to they call it
There's 7 kingdoms.
Yeah, they call it the throne of the 7 kingdoms.
Yeah.
Or the Iron Throne, which is literally a throne made up of the swords of dead enemies. So, currently, sitting on that throne is the Lannister family, headed by Cersei Lannister, who is
Crazy.
I was gonna say ruthless.
Yeah,
but
ruthless is probably a better word. She's not crazy.
Does he have orange hair? That goes back this way?
No, she's
she.
female and she's.
Okay, she's a
she is
No, it's a fantasy.
yeah, she is ruthless to say the least. We're not gonna touch that. We're not gonna touch that at all, Chris. She's ruthless to say the least, and her family is ruthless.
All but one.
All but one. And so the Lannisters are the richest of the families. Then you have the
And they're the best at war.
Yeah, they have the largest army and everything else. And they currently are the ones who actually sit on the throne now. But they kind of got there through some unsavory, some nefarious ways and unsavory
do they ever have drafts to try to achieve parity?
No, this is basically...
This is medieval times where you killed people because they said, I want to be king.
They're going to plot...
Parody's good in
They're going to plot until somebody kills everybody and sits on the throne. That's what's going to happen.
It sounds so horrible that we like this show.
This show is amazing. So you have the Lannisters, and then you have the Starks.
You don't need to go into it because you're going to give too much away by anything you say.
Well, I'm just trying to.
It was just a good episode. It really rounded out where everybody was at that point
in time. It had to be good. My phone was blowing up today. Did you watch Game of Thrones? I've never watched one episode.
It was good. It was good. And we were already speculating where it was going to go.
So was it last season with the Red Wedding or season 4 last?
Oh gosh, that was like 3 seasons ago.
Okay, so I will say, because it was a few seasons back, there was a episode called The Red Wedding.
It's horrible. It is a horrible. There are some. This series is based on books, and there were people that had read the books that were just waiting for that episode. Because they knew the people that had never read them were going to be
freaked.
Oh my God. There were people that said they were never going to watch the show again, how horrible HBO was, how horrible the writer was, how could you ever do that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
it was...
It was nuts.
Yeah.
So
we were both like,
So with the Red Wedding, the Stark family is trying to make allies with another castle, another household. And so they go, there's going to be a wedding there. And the ruler of that house betrays the Stark army and murders an entire room full of at least 100 people. Like violently, swords and gut, murders a room full of people. So it's just washed in blood. So the Red Wedding. What makes it horrible is this is not soldiers only. This is women, this is children, this is pregnant women, and they're stabbing pregnant women in the stomach. It was wildly horrible to watch.
That's what I mean. You have to be okay with things that are not socially acceptable.
So what you're saying, intermarriages between the clans is not necessarily a good idea.
It
it's
can
just
be,
like
and it can be really horrible.
Yeah.
Because there's been a couple of intermarriages that have been really horrible. Either way it goes, this season starts where the Red Wedding happened. And there's a character that can take on the appearance of anybody. And she, I will say that, in the disguise of the head of that manor, an old man, says she's going to do a banquet rewarding the soldiers for their service and loyalty and all of that. And so they raise a toast and poisons everybody. And that is right after the opening credits, scene 1. And it only gets better from there. So if you haven't been watching Game of Thrones, you may want to go back.
I wonder if it comes on like 4 o'clock when I get up.
I'm sure.
I gotta check that out.
I'm sure you can find that on HBO.
I'm gonna watch that in the morning. It'll set my day off right.
It's kind of crazy too because it's on Sunday nights.
I know you've gone to church, you've done all these, really, and then you come home and you're watching the entire room full of people get murdered.
Then you go back to church on Monday.
I think there's 7 seasons.
Yeah, and this is season 6 or 7.
I think this is 7.
Wow. Yeah.
I think.
So if you haven't watched it, Game of Thrones is the shit, and you should probably go and check it out.
Them people need to seriously reproduce, or there ain't gonna be nobody left.
Yeah,
I
will say it's medieval. It's It's medieval with a fantasy component. There's also dragons that are controlled by Chris's favorite character, Khaleesi, who is a very unassuming, very attractive, unassuming little lady. But she is the mother of dragons. She controls several kingdoms at this point, and has 3 dragons to boot. So
Would love to have a 4th dragon with her.
That's a medieval Air Force then, right?
Kind of.
So anyway, with all that, that is this week's Sugar Honey Iced Tea, and I kind of think it's the shit. And with that, I'm going to end this podcast the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me, and that is to good times with good people.